Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Ganaganapam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Ganaganapam Prapta Sakalina Gurunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Baju Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Taranga Baju Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaratanama Niramarjanado Juktasya bhaktamsya niyunjatopi Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasado Swatana Triptan Hari Bhakta Shanga Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasado Swatana Triptan Kridvaiva Tripti Bhajata Shadeva Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Shiradikama Gabayara Param Madhura Lila Gunarupanamna Shiradikama Param Madhura Lila Pratikshana Swa Dhanalalupasya Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Nekunjayuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jayali Virjukti Apekshaniya Nekunjayuno Ratikeli Siddhai Tatrati Daksha Atibalavasya Vande Gurashi Charanarvindam Sakya dharitvena shamasta shastrin ruktastatthava vyataiva sarve. Kintu pravarja priya eva tasya bande gurashi charunar vrindam. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasadam. Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi. Yasya prasadam sadam nagati kutapi. Jayam stubam tasya yasatri sandhyam vande gurashi charanarabindam. Jayam stubam tasya yasatri sandhyam vande gurashi charanarabindam. Vande gurashi charanara nama om Vishnu padaya Krishna pristaya bhutale Srimate bhakti vedanta swami niti namine nama. Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Vachata Rishata Rine. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vachata Rishata. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shri Advaita Shivasari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Oh, the Premanande, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Hariyaraye Namah, Krishna Jadavaye Namah, Jadavaye Madhavaya Kesavaye Namah, Gopal Govindaram Shrimadusudan, गिरिधारी गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत सीता हरि गुरु वैष्णव भगवत गीता श्री रूप सनातन भट्टर गुना श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दासर गुना हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरि बोल कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम श्री श्री राधा नीला माधव राधा नीला माधव राधे राधा राधा जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्राम जय सुदर्शन चक्र सुभद्राम निताय गौर हरिबो 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 निताय गौर हरिबो 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 निताय गौर हरि प्रमानंदे हरिबो जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रभाजकाचार्य सूत्र श्री शिष्य मार्ग अभचरण भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि समस्त प्रकाशर वैष्णव श्रमण पतित पावन श्री प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौर्य गुरु वर्गा पतित उद्धार की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भद्र रघुनाथ जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास गुण सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय। दयानंद कुछ वैष्णवृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिव श्री गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद स्मरण गौरंग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महाप्रणाय अवतार की जय। प्रधान हरि नाम संकीर्तन जय की जय। जुग धर्म हरि कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप राधा कुंद सम कुंदराज गोधन की जय। श्री ब्रज वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय। कैलाश श्री श्री राधा माधव की जय। श्री श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कर सिंह भगवान की जय। गंगा में जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री मथुरा रानी की जय। समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय। निताय गौरी प्रमानंदे all glories to somebody bodies, all glories to somebody bodies, all glories to somebody bodies, all glories to Shri Guru Shri Guru. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste. Namaste Narasimhaya. Prahlada hine. Hiranyakasipu Raksha Silatangka nakalaye Ito nisinga parata nisinga Jatto jatto jamitato nisinga Bhair nisinga hrudaye nisinga Narasingha Madim Sharanam Prapadim Tabakara Kamalavare Naka Adbhuta Singha Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tano Bringa Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Tabakara Kamalavare Naka Adbhuta Singha Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tano Bringa Kesavadrita Narahari Ru Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jaya Nisingare Jaya Nisingare Nisingare Jaya Nisingare Jaya Narahari Jaya Narahari Jaya Narahari Jaya Narahari Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo जय श्री श्री भक्ति पथ सर्वविघ्नाशना कनि सिंह भगवान की जय भक्त श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय निताई गो हरि प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल श्री वृंदाई तुलसी दिवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारिवे सतवताय नमो नमः Premdai tulasi devai priyai kesava satya Vishnu bhakti pradidevi satavatai namo namaha. Vrindayai tulasi devai priyai kesava satya Vishnu bhakti pradidevi satavatai namo namaha. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindari ki jai. Namo Namo Tulasi Krishna Prayasi. Namo Namo Tulasi Krishna Prayasi. Namo Tulasi Krishna Prayasi. Namo Namo Radha Krishna Seva Prabhu Eya Bilasi. Radha Krishna Seva Prabhu Eya Bilasi. Je tomara sharanala tara vancha purna. Kripa koi karatare Vrindavana Basi. Tumi kripa kari karatare Vrindavana Basi. Tumi kripa Mora eya vila Velas kunje diyova. Nayane ribo sada Jugala ruparasi ami. Nivenanadana Sakirayano Gatakoro. Sevayadhi kara diye kara nijadasi. Dina Krishna das koi eye namora. Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaye Navasi. Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaye Navasi. Jani Kanisha Papani Brahmatari Kanisha Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakshina Pade Pade. Yani Kanisha Papani Brahmatari Kanisha Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakshina Pade Pade. Yani Kanisha Papani Brahmatari Kanisha Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakshina Pade Pade. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Brinda Devi Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Brinda Devi. Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jai Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prari Devi Satavataye Namo Namo. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namo Namo. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namo Namo. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Oh Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to return to service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of his wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shiva and Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a fellow Kavidamas of God. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna, please. May I always swim in love with Shri Radha. Govind. Jai Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikyastakam Ki Jai. Jaito Darpanam. Shakar Vichandrika Vitaranam. Vidya Vadu Jivanam. Anandamudi Vardhanam. Pratipadam. Punam Nitaswadhanam. Sarvatmasnam Param Paravijayati. Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Nam Namakari Vaudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pitani Amitashmarane Nakal Itadrushi Tava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaivam Idrishamya Jani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishtuna Amani Namana Dena Kirtaniya Sada Hari Na Dhanam Na Janam Na Sundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishari Bhavatar Bhakti Raituki Twai Oinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitamam Vishame Bhavambudo Kripaya Tapapada Pankaja Sitaduli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galorashtrudharaya Vadanam Gadugadarudaya Gira Ulakari Chitamba Pukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavisati Juga Itam Nimishena Chakusha Prabhusa Itam Shunya Itam Jagata Sarvam Govinda Virahename Asli Shabha Padaratam Pinashtumam Adarshana Marmahatam Karotuva Jata Tathava Vidadatu Lampato Mat Pranatastu Saivana Para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikyastakam Ki Jai. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life with the birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, where it spreads the rays of benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully test the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. They are not hard and fast rules for chanting this name. O my Lord, out of kindness to enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a Lord on a stony street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, somehow or other, I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at the yard of the feet. O my Lord, when with my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name, With my voice choke up, and with the hairs of my body stand on the end, the recitation of your name. Oh Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he should remain so, even if it handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kastakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods, our Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation of the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are often veiled as a fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the featherless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10. So to have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be interchangeable by chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisance unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone. They are full of compassion for the following conditioned souls.
Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Om Aganya Timirandasya Yananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jitaha Pachikamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Swami Namane Shivasavanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujjvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Abhasidanta Dvantaharine Namo Guru Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhude Padambujayate Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Guru Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Guru Vir Bhava Bhumistvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Sri Jagannatayate Namaha Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Chuse Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakti Saktikam. Hey Krishna Karina Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mama Mandamatir Gati Matsarva Swapadam Bhujo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpa Drumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Bihi Sevyamanam Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasa Rambi Vamsiva Tatatastita Karsan Venuswanir Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanustute Devi Pranamanmi Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Satma Sukalpa Vriksha Laksha Vriti Susurabhira Vipaliyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kvananta Aravinda Dalayataksham Bharhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesha Sobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandrakala Sadvanamadya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Tibanga Lalita Niyata Prakasam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vikrahasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purisham Navayovanam Cha Vedesu Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsada Sampragamyo Vayoratapi Manaso Munipungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatum Jagadanda Koti Koti Swasesu Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Asesha Bhutam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Sampraptya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa Suktaryameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Mataya Mazasu Prabhirya Eva Nicharupa Taya Kalabhi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pammeram Janab Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksadeva Hidayesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menatistan Nana Avatara Makarud Bhuvanesu Kintu Krishna Swayam Sambhavat Paramam Pumam Yo Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Koti Svasesu Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Asesha Bhutam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Mayahi Yasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Chai Gunya Tad Visaya Veda Vitayamanam Sadva Valambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya Manasu Ya Praninam Praktifulam Sparatam Upetya Lilaya Tena Bhuvanani Jaya Yajasram Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Golokanamni Nijadamni Tale Chatasya Devi Mahesu Haritam Sudesu Desu Te Prabhavani Vijaya Vitasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shististati Pralaya Sada Vasaktireka Jayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga Ichanu Rupam Abhyasya Chesta Tesa Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Hetu Yasambhutam Apitata Samapaitikaya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Diparchadeva Hisatastantarma Abhyapetya Dibhayate Vidita Hetu Samanu Dharma Yastadrigeva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narnava Jale Bhajati Sma Yoga Nidram Ananta Jagananda Saruma Kuba Adhara Saktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasitakala Matavalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagananda Nata Vishnur Mahansa Yasya Kala Visesu Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Baswam Yatasma Sakalesu Nijesu Tejas Sriyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitad Vadatra Brahmaya Esa Jagananda Vidana Karta Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yukam Vinidaya Kumbha Dwande Pranama Samaye Saganadi Raja Vignan Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Maruti Sascha Kalastatatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschaksuresa Savita Sakalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Teja Yasyagaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Sutayastapamsi Brahma Dikita Patagavatayasta Jiva Yadata Matra Vibhava Bhakata Prabhava Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschendra Gopa Matavendra Mahoswa Karma Bandhanu Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kintu Chabakti Bhajam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bitti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaura Vasevya Bhavai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Druma Bhumis Chintamani Ganama Itoyam Amritam Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriya Saki Chidanandam Jyoti Param Apitad Aswadya Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bihi Shavati Surabi Bhyas Sumahan Nime Sardakyo Vavrajati Nahiyatra Bisamaya Bhaje Sritad Vipam Tamaham Iha Golakamiti Vidantaste Santakshiti Virala Charakati Paye Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai Canto Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai Canto 2 Chapter 10 verse number or text number 5 Avataраnucharitam Hareshchasyanuvartinam Pumsam Ishakata Prokta Nanakya Anupabrimhita Avatara, incarnation of Godhead. Anucharitam, activities. Hare, of the personality of Godhead. Cha, also. Asya, of his. Anavartinam, followers. Pumsam, of the persons. Ishakataha, the science of God. Proktaha is said. Nana, various. Akyalyana, narrations. Upabrim hitaha, described. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The science of God describes the incarnations of the personality of Godhead and his different activities, together with the activities of his great devotees. Purport by his divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. During the course of the existence of the cosmic manifestation, the chronology of history is created, recording the activities of the living entities. People in general have a tendency to learn the history and narrations of different men and times, but due to a lack of knowledge in the science of Godhead, they are not apt to study the history of the incarnations of the personality of Godhead. It should always be remembered that the material creation is created for the salvation of the conditioned souls. The merciful Lord, out of his causeless mercy, descends to various planets in the material world and acts for the salvation of the conditioned souls. That makes the history and narrations worth reading. Srimad Bhagavatam offers such transcendental topics of the Lord in relationship with great devotees. Therefore, the topics of the devotees and the Lord are to be given respectful oral reception. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The science of God describes the incarnations of the personality of Godhead and his different activities, together with the activities of his great devotees. So yesterday we discussed some things that were very, very important, and I just want to go over a little bit of it and then continue. Yesterday, the concept of Sad-dharma was explained by Prabhupada. What is Sad-dharma? Sad-dharma, he gave several definitions of it, but generally it means good guidance for the human beings who should take advantage of all the revealed scriptures for their own interest to make life's successful termination. And then it says, the creation is not false, but it is a temporary manifestation just to give a chance for the conditioned souls to go back to Godhead. The desire to go back to Godhead and the functions performed in that direction form the right path of work. When such a regulative path is accepted, the Lord gives all protection to his devotees. By his causeless mercy, while the non-devotees risk their own activities to bind themselves in a chain of fruitive reactions. The word Sad-dharma is significant in this connection. Sad-dharma, or duty performed for going back to Godhead, and thus becoming his or Krishna's unalloyed devotee, is the only pious activity. All others may pretend to be pious, but actually they are not. It is for this reason only that the Lord advises in the Bhagavad Gita that one give up all so-called religious activities and completely engage in the devotional service of the Lord to become free from all anxieties due to the dangerous life of material existence. So this is extremely profound statements by Srila Prabhupada. And if we can assimilate this and then pass it on to other people, we become a significant preacher of Krishna consciousness. And you'll be able to convince other people to take up Krishna consciousness and this path of Sad-dharma. Sad-dharma, of course, means giving good guidance for the human beings. And so that they understand that the duty performed for going back to Godhead is devotional service to the Lord without any personal motive. So it sounds real simple, but it's a hard decision to make in someone's life because of the overwhelming emphasis on sense gratification as the goal of life. And it is overwhelming. And this glorification of it everywhere we look, in schools, in universities, in television, in books, on the internet, and chat rooms, and social media, all about sense gratification. Everywhere you look, it's all about sense gratification. So for someone to make a decision to take good advice for organizing their life and take good guidance, it's a rare thing, a very rare thing. When Prabhupada was present, only about 4,500 or 4,700 people took initiation. So that's out of how many billions of people that there are on this planet. So it's a very rare thing. But if only 1% of the population becomes Krishna conscious, Prabhupada has said, then Krishna consciousness will take over the whole world. I mean, what does that mean, take over the whole world? Will influence the other 99% in a significant way. We just have to make 1% of people Krishna conscious. And then the 99 other percent will become gradually Krishna conscious also. But getting to that 1%, that's the problem. So, but it's possible. Why? Because Prabhupada gave us everything necessary to do that. All the books that he has. And any book, you don't have to even read the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. Any of his books, like The Laws of Nature, or Easy Journey to Other Planets, or Ishopanishad, or Science of Self-Realization. Any of those books are enough to convince a person to take up Krishna consciousness and follow Saddharma, good guidance. So one's aim of life should be to go back home, back to Godhead, and not be subjected to repeated births and deaths in the material world by getting good or bad bodies for temporary existence. Herein lies the intelligence of human life, and one should desire the activities of life in that way. So if we can't even convince our own kids to do this, how are we going to convince other people to do it? You see, I mean, you can't assume that because your kids are not assimilating this, that you'll be able to convince other people. No, you have to start with your own family. And those are the hardest people to convince. So it's almost impossible to convince them unless you actually follow Krishna consciousness yourself, and strictly. This waking up early, this chanting rounds in the Brahma Muhurta, all that is an indication that one has become serious. In other words, there was once this very fat lady, and she went to the doctor and said, I've tried everything, all kinds of diets and this and that, and even starving myself. I can't lose this weight. So what can I do? He said, well, let me do the doctor said, let me do a real diagnosis. So, he taking her pulse, and then he's told her to open her mouth and say, ah, like that. He looked at her tonsils, and then he was putting a stethoscope here, there, all over. And he said, well, we might have to do this, MRI or something like that. So he said it'll take about 6 weeks to get all the results, and it's going to cost about $2,000. She said, okay, do it. I got to lose this weight. This is just terrible. So he does all that, and after 6 weeks, she comes back and said, well, Doc, what's the conclusion? He said, I'm sorry to tell you, he said, you only have 1 month left to live. He said, what? He said, yeah. And he said, here's all this information, but she can't understand what it says. It's all medical terminology and charts and this thing and that. And she was like shocked. I'm going to die in 1 month. He said, yeah, there's no doubt about it. And he said, I'm very sorry. She goes home and she's like completely distressed. I'm going to die in 1 month, I'm going to lose everything I have. And she's really devastated, And she's so much in distress, she can't even eat. And she can hardly sleep. And every day she wakes up, am I dead? Well, no, I'm still alive, but death is coming in a couple more days. So 1 month goes by and she doesn't die. So she said, well, maybe I'll have a few more days, she's in deep anxiety. Eventually 2 months go by, she's not dead. She calls the doctor, says, I have to come and see you, So she goes back, says, it's been 2 months, I haven't died. He said, yes, but you've lost 80 pounds. She said, what does that have to do with anything? He said, well, actually, I lied to you. But I knew if I lied to you, you thought you were going to die, you would lose your weight, So, you see, that's the point. That people, unless they're actually fearful of dying in a very short period of time, most people will not change their activities. Now, the opposite is true also. There was this very famous singer, a British singer. I always forget the names of demons, so I won't even say his name because I can't remember it. But very, very famous, and he died, I think, like 2 or 3 years ago. But he knew he was going to die. He had AIDS. He was a homosexual. He had AIDS, and he knew he was going to die. So what did he do? He didn't get all, serious about, I gotta, prepare myself for death. He started engaging in even more intense sense gratification than before. Till the last day of his life, he was having parties, getting drunk, and having sex with men and this and that, and as many men as he could. So there's 2 ways of going here. One is you get really serious, and the other is you get really serious but for sense gratification. And he died without any remorse. And of course, he's a demon, so he's going to take birth as some kind of a lowly animal or insect or worm or something, he was like very, very offensive to himself and to God. So, one's aim of life should be to go back home, back to Godhead, and not be subjected to repeated births and deaths in the material world by getting good or bad bodies for temporary existence. Herein lies the intelligence of human life. So people that don't do this, they're not intelligent, they're dumb. They're wasting the human form of life. And it says, and one should desire the activities of life in that way. Okay, that's the key. This is what we're trying to aim for, to help people desire this form of life according to Krishna's instructions, and the same instructions are given by the acharyas and, of course, Srila Prabhupada. So if we want to be a representative of Krishna, we have to give the same instruction. Okay, so in the purport today, it says that the merciful Lord, out of his causeless mercy, descends to various planets in the material world and acts for the salvation of the conditioned souls. That makes the history and narrations worth reading. So, kids study history in school, right? But that history, there was this war, and this king did that, and that king did that, and it's nonsense. Why should we study that history? We should study the history of the Lord and his incarnations. This is the science of God, you say. So the history that they teach doesn't really help a person. It just convinces that the people are corrupt, and they have wars based on their corrupt style of life and their corrupt thoughts, and it causes the death of many, many people and suffering of many, many, many people. So just in the 20th century, you had 2 very big wars and a whole bunch of small wars, and a lot of people died. World War I, then a few years after that, there's World War II, then there's, in between, there were smaller wars. You have the Korean War, you have the Vietnam War. These are wars which the United States was involved in, right? But then there are other wars that went on also in the same time. There were smaller wars. So there's always some war going on somewhere, and people are dying, and there's all kinds of misery. And then on top of all that, there are earthquakes, there are flooding, there's flooding, there is pandemics, and then there's also hurricanes. You put it all together, there's a lot of death. There's a lot of suffering, and there's economic downturns, and there is sicknesses like cancer and diabetes and heart attacks. There's a lot of suffering going on, right? Why? And it's all unnecessary. That's the main point. All of this is unnecessary. It's because people are not interested in Saddharma, getting good advice to engage in service to the Lord. And they're engaged in all this sense gratification, which is dissipating, destroying all their good qualities and their chance to be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. So this is explained also in Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, 2nd verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreyasya Karav Ubo Tayostu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yogo Visishyate. The personality replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation, but of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. So renunciation of work, that is the impersonalists, the Mayavadis, the Buddhists, they want to renounce work. And the devotees, they don't want to renounce work, but they want to renounce working for sense gratification and replace it by working for Krishna. So the purport, fruitive activities, as we said, the word fruitive doesn't exist in the English language, but Prabhupada coined it, and it means seeking sense gratification. That's what it actually means, seeking sense gratification. Fruitive activities, parentheses, seeking sense gratification, are cause for material bondage. As long as one is engaged in activities aimed at improving the standard of bodily comfort, one is sure to transmigrate to different types of bodies, thereby continuing material bondage perpetually. That means forever. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.4-6 confirms this as follows. Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yad indriya pritaya aprinoti. Nasadu manye yata atmano yam asana api klesada asadeha. And so forth. Parabhavas davad aboda jato and so forth. People are mad after sense gratification. Amen. It's a fact. They're mad after sense gratification. And they do not know that this present body, which is full of miseries, is a result of one's fruitive activities in the past. In other words, sense gratification in the past. Although this body is temporary, it is always giving one trouble in many ways. Therefore, to act for sense gratification is not good. One is considered to be a failure in life as long as he makes no inquiry about his real identity. As long as he does not know his real identity, he has to work for fruitive results for sense gratification. And as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from one body to another. Although the mind may be engrossed in fruitive activities and influenced by ignorance, one must develop a love for devotional service to Vasudeva, meaning Krishna. Only then can one have the opportunity to get out of the bondage of material existence. So whenever the A in Vasudeva is there, it's referring to Krishna. And when the long A is not there, it's referring to either Vasudeva, the father of Krishna, or it's referring to, when the V is small and it's Vasudeva, it's referring to the material nature. So here we have one word, whether it has a long A or a short A or a small V or a big V, it can mean different things. Right? So you have to be careful when you're reading. You can say, well, Vasudeva, it's Vasudeva, right? No. It's either Vasudeva or Vasudeva. And then either there's a V is capitalized or it's small. So, therefore, we have to be careful when we read. Although this body is temporary, it is always giving one trouble in many ways. Therefore, to act for sense gratification is not good. One is considered to be a failure in life as long as he makes no inquiry about his real identity. As long as he does not know his real identity, he has to work for fruitive results for sense gratification. And as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from one body to another. So, as long as one does not know his real identity, this is what life is about. Who am I? Am I Latino? Am I black? Am I white? Am I Indian? Am I this? Am I that? So how are these kids going to understand who they are? How are the adults going to understand who they are? Because unless they understand who they really are, they will not engage in devotional service. They'll engage in sense gratification. It's as simple as that. It's not more complicated. And this is serious stuff because you can ruin your life. You can ruin your life. You can go on year after year in complete illusion, not knowing who you are. And you only know who you are in relationship to others. So if you really want to know who you are, you have to understand in relationship to Krishna. Then you'll understand who you are. If it's in relationship to others, you'll never understand. Just like right now, we're seeing something very interesting. This whole thing about Russia and Ukraine is very interesting because it's a war based on sense gratification and proprietorship. So the Crimea used to be part of the Soviet Union. That's why there are a lot of Russians that live in Crimea. But after the split of the Soviet Union, it became part of Ukraine. And so what did Putin do? He just invaded it in 2014 and took it back, right? So this idea that this is our country, this is our territory, the whole thing is nonsense, whether it's the Ukrainians that say this is ours or the Russians that say this is ours, right? Actually, in 1989, it was the most devastating year for Soviet Union. The Soviet Union fell apart. It was no longer this gigantic empire, and it lost all these satellite countries that were part of it and that it was controlling. And Soviet Union was a gigantic empire. It's not simply a country, it's an empire, because it included all these Eastern European states and the Ukraine and Kazakhstan and Tajikistan, all those countries, all those people. So when this happened, it was a shock. Although Russia won the Second World War, actually, by the disintegration of the Soviet Empire, they became a third world country. And there was massive, what you would call poverty in that country after that happened. After the war, it was an empire, and they had an agreement with Western countries, especially the United States, that they would have a field of influence in Eastern Europe, and the United States would hold back and just be concerned with Western Europe, and it included, half of Germany. All of a sudden, 1989, the Soviet Union collapses, and they lose all those countries and all that power, and because they were making money off of all those countries because they controlled them, right? And all of a sudden, it becomes a poor country, and it's struggling, and very, very insulting to them because they won the Second World War, right? And now they're like punished. Well, now this whole idea of building up the empire of Russia again and its power and its prestige, it's all based on sense gratification. In fact, Prabhupada says most wars are wars of sense gratification. Who is going to have their sense gratification? So when you see Crimea was so-called liberated, Russians in Crimea were dancing in the streets, and they were happy. And then, of course, there are Ukrainians in Crimea, and they were being, looked down upon now as being foreigners in Crimea, although they've been living there as long as the Russians. So here we see, you can see the Maya's tricks working in a massive way, and people are going to kill each other. They're saying if Russia invades Ukraine and goes up to Kiev, they could kill at least 50,000 people could die. So anyway, what is instructive about it, and it's sad, but it's a fact, it's a war of sense gratification. There's nothing valid about it because, first of all, neither the Ukrainians or the Russians recognize that everything belongs to Krishna. So that's what this purport is talking about. So it says, the translation of these three verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, 4th to 6th verse. People are mad after sense gratification, and they do not know that this present body, which is full of miseries, is a result of one's fruitive activities in the past. Although this body is temporary, it is always giving one trouble in many ways. Therefore, to act for sense gratification is not good. You just aggravate the troubles by, acting for sense gratification. One is considered to be a failure in life as long as he makes no inquiry about his real identity. As long as he does not know his real identity, he has to work for fruitive results for sense gratification. And as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from one body to another. This is how dangerous the sense gratification is. Although the mind may be engrossed in fruitive activities and influenced by ignorance, one must develop a love for devotional service to Vasudeva. Only then can one have the opportunity to get out of the bondage of material existence. Therefore, jnana, or knowledge that one is not this material body, but spirit soul, is not sufficient for liberation. one has to act in the status of spirit soul. Otherwise, there's no escape from material bondage. So, everyone says, oh, well, I'm not this body, I'm not this body. That doesn't mean they understand I'm not this body. Like, for example, there was once a big flock of birds in this forest. And they were all chirping and, flying here and there in the trees. And there were a lot of them in this one tree, hundreds of them. So a bird catcher came into the forest. And when he came into the forest, the birds started talking to each other. Said, look, that's the bird catcher. And he's hiding behind a tree. And he set up a net on the leaves. He sort of put some leaves on top of the net and put some rice on top of the leaves, thinking that we're going to go down there and eat it and get caught. They knew exactly what was happening, and they communicated to each other. So the bird catcher could understand bird language, and he heard what they said. And he was thinking, oh my God, he said, I'm not going to catch anything today. But let me just stay here a little bit and see what happens. So after a half an hour, all the birds landed on the top of the net to eat the rice. Then the net closed on them and caught them. And even the bird catcher was shocked because he knew that they knew exactly where he was hiding and what he did. So as he walks over and collects the net, which has like 100 birds in it, the birds started talking to each other. They said, "Oh my God, we flew down onto the net to eat the rice and we got caught." So the bird catcher is looking at him and he said, "You guys are really dumb, And the bird said, "Yeah, we're dumb." That's exactly what's happening to human beings. They know that they're being duped or fooled to think that sense gratification is the goal of life. And even they may come to classes and hear how sense gratification is not the goal of life, and it just causes bondage and suffering, and they know this, and still they do it, like those birds. They know that the bird catcher is there. He set up a trap. Still, they go into the trap. So it's very dangerous. Material life is very dangerous because one may know things, but unless they're really serious about devotional service. And Prabhupada said, in 24 hours of a devotee's day, he said, every second should be planned for service. There should not be even 1 second when we're not engaged in some kind of Krishna conscious activity, because all Maya needs just is that little bit of space, and she will come in there and catch you. Therefore, the temple commander must engage the devotees 24 hours a day. So, going to bed early, waking up early, that's engagement also, right? No one says you can't sleep or rest, but it all has to be planned, it all has to be regulated, and it has to be strictly followed. So, it says, as long as activities, one has to act in the status of spirit soul. Otherwise, there's no escape from material bondage. Action in Krishna consciousness is not, however, action on the fruitive platform. Activities performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. Without Krishna, so in other words, you might have knowledge, but if you act on that knowledge, if you act in devotional service, what does it do? It strengthens one's advancement in real knowledge. Okay? Action in Krishna consciousness is not, however, action on the fruitive platform. Activities performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. That's like a proverb. Actions performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. So it's not enough to theoretically know something. One has to put it into action. It's not enough that, we can pass tests like Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta. That's not enough. You have to actually put it into action on a daily basis. As long as the heart, without Krishna consciousness, mere renunciation of fruitive activities does not actually purify the heart of a conditioned soul. As long as the heart is not purified, one has to work on the fruitive platform. But action in Krishna consciousness automatically helps one escape the result of fruitive action, so that one need not descend to the material platform. Therefore, action in Krishna consciousness is always superior to renunciation, which always entails a risk of falling. Renunciation without Krishna consciousness is incomplete, as is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.258, Prapanchikataya Buddha Hari Sambandhu Vastana Mumukshubhihi Parityago Vairagyam Falgu Katyate. When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things related to the Supreme Personality Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is called incomplete. Renunciation is complete when it is in the knowledge that everything in existence belongs to the Lord, and that no one should claim proprietorship over anything, like Crimea, like Donbass. It's an area of Ukraine that the Russian people are fighting for now. Just like they fought for Crimea, now they're fighting for the Donbass area. And they'll fight for the whole Ukraine also pretty soon. Right? So this is going on all over the place. In the United States, this type of fighting over land, over water, over this, over that, between states. The United States could also disintegrate like Russia or the Soviet Union. And Europe also could disintegrate like the Soviet Union. There's no guarantee of any of these places having perpetual identity. So just 150 years ago, where we are right now, this was not the United States. This was part it was not really incorporated as part of Russia like Alaska was. But Russians were here, right? And of course the Indians were here also. So is this place 150 years from now, is it going to be the United States? We don't know. It could be China. It could be Russia. It could be, I don't know, anything. Black Lives Matter, So there's no guarantee. It's only 150 years. Or 100, not even 150 years, like 125 or 30 years that this is the United States, the state of Washington. It was incorporated late because it was one of the farthest states. I think it was incorporated in like 1860s. Right? And then towns like Seattle and other towns like that became populated and started to seek to join the United States. It was probably around after the Civil War. Okay. So, therefore, it says, renunciation is complete when it is in the knowledge that everything in existence belongs to the Lord, and that no one should claim proprietorship over anything. One should understand that factually nothing belongs to anyone. Then where is the question of renunciation? One who knows that everything is Krishna's property is always situated in renunciation. Since everything belongs to Krishna, everything should be employed in the service of Krishna. This perfect form of action in Krishna consciousness is far better than any amount of artificial renunciation by a sannyasi of the Mayavadi school. So, we should be actively engaged in devotional service. That's the message. That means that we will advance in our knowledge of Krishna. We will have real advancement in knowledge of Krishna by doing that. And then this question is really important. Where is the question of renunciation? Everything belongs to Krishna. Nothing belongs to us. So we're not renouncing anything by becoming Krishna conscious. We're reassuming our real position as the eternal servant of the Lord with no claim to any property, no claim even to the body as our property. The body actually belongs to Krishna because it's made of the Krishna's inferior spiritual energy: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. So this is real knowledge. Unless we become convinced of these facts, we will not become devotees. We will not become, let's say, genuine, fixed-up devotees. And because of that, we will never develop that strong determination to be Krishna conscious and make the effort to wake up early every day, be regulated, have service, and so forth. Okay, so are there any questions? What time is it now? 7:10. Okay. Are there any questions? So, yeah.
In this particular verse, 5.2,
Yeah.
Krishna is essentially saying renunciation is not renunciation of the work, but the renunciation of the results of the work.
Yes. Yes.
So that's the difference between Mayavad. Krishna himself is here.
Mayavadis renounce work.
Krishna, if somebody reads Bhagavad Gita, how can they accept Bhagavad Gita and not accept this instruction of Krishna?
Because they're reading on their own. They're not listening to classes. Right? We go back and read one verse in Bhagavad Gita. All of a sudden we realize, wait a minute, I read that, but I missed the whole thing. I didn't catch it. Right? By going back like this, we're looking at it, like under a microscope, right? And trying to understand, what is he saying here? We might have read this 100 times. It doesn't mean we understand it. It's when we go over it in class very carefully that we begin to absorb the deep meaning of these words. It's easy English, right? It's not like, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's high English, right, where you can't even understand what he's trying to say. Every word is easy, but still we don't understand. Still we don't understand. It's got to be pointed out, emphasized to understand it. And it all depends on our level of practice, whether we're practicing very seriously or not. And what usually happens, the people that don't come to classes on a regular basis, they have problems in their life. The ones that actually attend the classes and are hearing, reverently and effectively, their problems go away. Their problems go away. And any problems that they have, they're able to deal with it without being, let's say, frustrated or upset or defeated. So it's very important that we understand this, because if you want to have a peaceful life, if you want to have a life that is where the misery is minimized, You have to be hearing every day, and being very attentive and learning. So what does it say? That one sentence is the key. It says, activities performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. That's an amazing statement. Activities performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. Without Krishna consciousness, mere renunciation of fruitive activities does not actually purify the heart of a conditioned soul. Wow. If you just learn those two sentences. And then also in the Ishopanishad it says, the root of sin is deliberate disobedience of the laws of nature by disregarding the proprietorship of the Lord. The root of sin is deliberate disobedience of the laws of nature by disregarding the proprietorship of the Lord. So if we understand, like this, even 5.2 says it, and the purport today says it, what we read, everything belongs to God, including this body, including the mind. It's all his energy, including our soul also. It belongs to God. Therefore, we should only use these things in the service of Krishna. And if we do, then Krishna is guaranteeing that he's going to take care of you, he's going to protect you, he's going to make it easier for you to come back to Godhead. Okie dokie. So that's today's lesson. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Without Krishna consciousness, mere activities performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. It's an amazing statement.
Maharaj, there, the statement is somewhat also confusing because it's assuming that you are already acting in full knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says like acting in that full knowledge
Strengthens
strengthens
one's advancement in real knowledge. So it's a question of realization, the depth of realization. So this spiritual knowledge has many, many levels of realization.
So one is maybe we start with the theoretical knowledge, but we act on it, then it really strengthens our real
Understanding. Yeah.
The knowledge gets revealed, right?
Knowledge is also revealed, yes. It all depends on our surrender to Krishna and surrender through devotional service. You have a question?
There is online question.
Yeah.
So the online question is to elaborate on full knowledge and real knowledge. This is to understand the differences.
Well, full knowledge is you study something and you can say it, right? Real knowledge is you live it.
Theoretical, practical.
Yes, you're living it every day, and you're not going back, you're always going forward. That's real knowledge. It's like, for example, there's real wealth and fake wealth. Fake wealth is like Bitcoin or stocks, because one day it's worth this, the next day, it's worth nothing, right? But real wealth is you have grains, you have milk, so whatever happens economically, you can survive. That's real wealth. Hari Bol. Thank you.
I was looking after the
Oh yeah? Does it have the same meaning that we have? Well, if you look in older editions of dictionary, you will find it's not there. That just means that Prabhupada is brilliant, but he put a word into the English language. Prabhupada realized it was missing, so he put it in there. That's how the English language grows.
Yeah, if you just search on Google, you will not get it. But if you go to the Merriam-Webster dictionary website, then it's like enjoying possessive. It's capable of producing fruit.
Right. Okay. It's an adjective.
Even in medieval Latin, fructivus.
Yes. Another question?
So there is another online question.
Yeah.
It's a little long. I have to read.
Go ahead. Speak louder.
Yeah. How do we convince for someone who is serious in his devotional path not to renounce but stay in Grasta life and perform devotional service? For example, someone is very attached to sweets and strong desire to enjoy sweets. Isn't it difficult for that person to work in sweet mart?
Sweet what? Sweet what?
It's a sweet mart.
Sweet what?
Mart. M-A-R-T. Maybe
M-A-R-T. M-A...
Sweet mart, maybe.
What does that mean? Work in Sweet Mart.
Isn't it difficult for that person to work in sweet mart, at the same time control his desire to eat sweets, rather work in some other shop and control
work in a sweet market.
Market maybe.
And well, wait a minute.
And it continues a little bit more.
By practicing Krishna consciousness, you can learn to have natural sweets instead of made-up sweets using white sugar. Then it would not be detrimental to your health. So natural sweets are raisins, dates, orange juice, things like that. So a person who's enlightened in Krishna consciousness would not use, will learn not to use the artificial sweets that are highly refined, meaning taking out all the nutritional value and just having the sweetness. And they would eat the balanced sweets, such as dates and raisins, raw honey, not all honey, raw honey. And, those are natural sweets. So it's not as detrimental to your health as the refined sweets. But see, that you wouldn't know that unless you take advice from someone who knows. Say, just like now, because we have a lot of dates, we don't make halva. We just serve the dates to the people, right? So, or we make the halva with dates, right? You soak the dates in water; they become really soft, and then you puree it, and you put that into the halva. And so you're not using any white sugar. Or you can use real gur or jaggery, because what the Indians are doing now, they're people that put some of the gur has preservatives in it. You have to be very careful which one you use. So but all these things you would learn by associating with people who know this. So the answer to the question is, Prabhupada liked sweets, Krishna likes sweets, nothing wrong with it. But if you make it with natural sugar rather than the artificial white sugar, that would be more judicious, that would be more wise for your health. So we're not saying you're not allowed to eat sweets. We're saying let's make the healthy sweets. Because Krishna likes sweets. So I remember before I joined, but when I was just learning about Krishna consciousness, I was a macrobiotic. I followed the macrobiotic diet, and they don't eat sweets, right? And when I heard that Prabhupada likes sweets, I said, oh, he can't be a guru. You know, he's not really a bona fide guru because he's eating sweets. The guy was crazy, right? So, no, Prabhupada liked sweets. He didn't say, don't give me sweets. But you can make sweets that are healthy. Haribol.
Yeah. So Maharaj, the first part of the question was how do we convince for someone who is serious in his devotional path not to renounce but stay in Grihastha life and perform devotional service? That was the
You can be Krishna conscious from any position. Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. Any position you can be Krishna conscious, as long as you give up sense gratification and take up devotional service seriously. Which means lifestyle adjustment, going to bed early, waking up early, chanting your rounds early before Mangala Aarti, all these things. Once you do that, it doesn't matter. You're married, you're not married, it doesn't matter. And as long as there's cooperation with the other members of the family to be Krishna conscious, then you don't have to take sannyas. You're already a sannyasi because you're not engaged in sense gratification. Nobody's engaged in sense gratification in the house. So you're all on the same path of pure devotional service. Okay? Haribol. Okay, who's going to chant?
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Bandha Muhi Savadana Mate
Bandho Mui Savadana Mate
Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatoriya Jai
Janara Prasade Mai Jai
Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Hoite
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Goriya Kya
Arna Kori Ho Mane Asha
Arana Koriya Mane Asa
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati Aarti.
जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्वा आशा
He prasade pure sarva sa.
चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिला जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो
दिव्य ज्ञान दे प्रकाशितो
प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाशा जयते
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जयते
वेदे गाए जहाँ रचरितो
वेद गाय जन रचरितो
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनारा बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदन जनर बंधु
लोकेनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना हा हा प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया ए बेजास घुषुक त्रिभुवाना
शक्ति भुवाना
प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना
प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना
जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदान्ता स्वामीति नामिने
नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदान्ता स्वामीति नामिने
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पश्चातादिशतारिणे
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पश्चातादिशतारिणे
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद
कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत
गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद
Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama
Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Jai Guru Hari
Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parajagachasta Satarashi Shishimar His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Sikha Hosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sidvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Jamuna Maya ki jai. Samveda Bhaktavinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Pavana ki jai. Vastaya Bhutali Sumata Bhakti Swami Tanami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskat. Yeah, there's a time. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and attain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor, Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter